Hi, my name is Crystal. Haven't made video in a lot of years. Kind of did it pretty regular on a very, very, very consistent basis back in I don't know, 2008 to 2010, at least 20, around then. But, yeah. My life, the last few years, I feel like it's kind of been flipped upside down. Some good, mostly bad, but all is probably all is working out for for the good, because I'm putting my faith in God. I'm putting my trust in Him. I'm handing over the reins of everything to God, and not doing what I want to do necessarily, but what I feel God wants me to do. 2022, I lost my mother to COVID. 2023, 11 months later, I lost my brother to a very aggressive cancer. Now, just the other day, on July 30th, 2025, I lost my dad. I was always a daddy's girl, and I cared for him up until his last breath. Last 2 years, he had been diagnosed with dementia. Shortly after my brother had passed on, I saw the signs before, but it was already too late. So a little over 2 years ago, he got diagnosed with dementia. No, and there's so much detail that I could go into, and I'm starting a blog, so I'm trying to. My writings tend to be better than my videos, so I'll save some of that information for later if you're interested. But long story short, back in March, April, he started getting this infection. It's like cellulitis infection in his left lower leg, like in the calf area. It was real red and everything, and it hurt him. So we went to the doctor, and the doctor gave him antibiotics. Instead of getting better, it got worse. It exploded. It was a huge wound. It busted open. They tried to debride it, and he was in too much pain. My dad was already on tramadol. He also had kidney disease, so he couldn't take just anything. Ibuprofen helped him the most, but he wasn't allowed to take it because of his kidney disease. And I couldn't take him crying anymore. Literally, I worked from home, and he literally cried the whole 8 hours I was working. I could hear him in the next room crying. Couldn't take it no more. So I finally said, let's go to the hospital. I took him to the ER. They admitted him. He had a really serious infection. They did get that, under control. And because he couldn't stand it to be touched or anything, they decided to put him under anesthesia to get rid of the necrotic tissue. He pulled through that okay. They wanted me to put a DNR on him. I was like, no DNR right now. They wanted me to do hospice care for him. No, not right now. He was still able to feed himself. He was not incontinent yet or anything like that. He was still mostly cognitive, just really bad memory every now and then. I mean, he'd have sundowners where in the evening it was worse. But all in all, it wasn't that bad. So he went into rehab. Tried to visit him as much as I could. It was 50 miles away. It's the only nursing facility, skilled nursing facility that would take him with his insurance and his dementia. Even though he was a sweet man and he never got aggressive or combative or anything like that, but I understand they don't know that if they don't know him. So the only one that would take him was a good ways away, but we made the trip 2 to 3 times a week. I tried to do every other day to begin with, but after a week of doing every other day and trying to work 40 hours a week, it was just like, I just couldn't do it no more. So we started going just on the weekends at the very end until he got discharged on July 2nd of this year. He said he wanted to go home. I'm like, okay, let's go home. And I didn't know that he really wasn't able to really walk at all. Like he declined physically. He declined while he was in there. So he came home. He didn't really walk very well. I had to get my husband and me sometimes to help him walk to the bathroom, walk this, walk that. Anyway, long story short, on July 3rd, actually the next day, so I kind of skipped ahead, I'm sorry. On July 3rd, we went to come to the doctor, and the doctor's like, have you thought more about the palliative care? I'm like, yes, we would like to start that. So they sent a referral to that. You know, mind you, he walked in there with a walker. He walked in there by himself. Walked back in the house pretty much by himself, you know, with assistance. Over the weekend, it got where he could not walk hardly at all, but maybe a couple of feet to the bathroom, and then he stopped coming into the kitchen to eat. He started taking his meals in bed. So when the next week, when like Monday or Tuesday, they ordered him a hospital bed. The hospice came in, did an assessment, said he had 6 months or less to live with his dementia. And I thought, really? Okay. I just thought he was just, you know, a little weak from being in the hospital a while, and I thought maybe he should bounce back. You know, wasn't thinking that, you know, his dementia is he's probably not going to bounce back, but that's exactly what happened. Hospice was wonderful. Hospice came in, and hospice was wonderful. I could not have done what I did without their help and without Jesus Christ. Let me just preface that with this. If it wasn't for Jesus giving me the strength every day to do what I did, because initially 2 years ago when I told my dad I'd be his caregiver, I told him as long as he could feed himself, as long as he can use the bathroom himself, and he could feed himself, and he could, you know, ambulate around the house to some degree, you know, or at least put, you know, some weight on his legs to walk with assistance even, then I would keep doing what I'm doing. But the moment he couldn't do one of those things on his own, I couldn't do it no more, because I had to work 40 hours a week to pay bills. And so that was initially what I had said. That weekend I was like, I even called my sister, like, I can't do this. I'm going to have to put him somewhere. But I knew that hospice was coming, so I knew I was going to talk to somebody, and I was like, let me see how this goes. So when they came out and told me everything that they was going to offer, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can make this work, because every 2 months you'd get 5 days of respite care. where you can, go have a little mini vacation or whatever you want to do for 5 days every 2 months. Okay. And I was also going to get, hospital bed, which was very needed. A bedside commode, so he didn't have to walk that far. As it was apparent, he just couldn't do it no more. His voice started changing. My dad had a very strong voice, very strong, very powerful voice. He was a preacher, a Pentecostal Church of God type preacher, so he had a voice, that demanded attention. His voice sounded like he was going hoarse, and I didn't understand why. At first I thought, well, maybe you're getting a cold, because right before we had picked him up from the nursing home, my son had a real bad cold that he was just barely getting over when my dad returned. So I thought maybe he picked it up when he came back home. But no. It just got worse. As time went on, not much time, like I said, because this was only like July 8th when he started hospice care. And I want to say by the 13th, he was babbling. And he may have been speaking in tongues. I don't know. He's never spoken. This is the thing. He's never spoken tongues. Ever. As much as man of God as he is. He never spoke in tongues. But it really did sound like what I've heard from other people that speak in tongues. So it was really interesting to think about that for a moment. But he started kind of staring off into space a little bit more spaced out. But he would have his moments. He was getting a little bit aggressive. He even spit in my face and everything. And he would call me. He said I was a nagger. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, I probably am nagging a lot. I apologize, and everything like that. Taking what he says with a grain of salt, because I know he has got dementia. I'm very confused. His words got less and less until he was at the very end. Last couple of days, he's pretty much nonverbal. His last words to me was breakfast, where he ate a half a pack of oatmeal after having about a day and a half of eating or drinking absolutely nothing. And that's when they said, you got 1 to 2 weeks left, maybe, with him. And then when he said breakfast, I thought, At first, I thought, is he getting better? Is he getting better? But then my memory came to me about the time that he about things I've been reading online about people that are dying, how they get that last burst of energy. And with him not being able to walk, he didn't leave the bed, but he did, eat a little bit more that day than he had previous days. So I feel like, okay, we're about to really get into the last few days of life here. I'd come in and he would stop breathing for a few seconds and he would start back. And he had episodes of that almost every night for the last 4 nights of his life. He'd have episodes like that. And so I knew it was getting close. 24 hours before, almost 24 hours to the minute before he died, I changed his Depends, his diaper. And let me tell you, I never ever thought I could do that. Ever. Change an adult diaper while they're in bed. With them, them weak as all get out. Changing bed sheets with them in bed. Things that nurses do that I never ever thought I would ever do. Every day. I mean, sometimes I didn't have as much time as I wanted with the Lord, because I usually always the whole time he was in the hospital, I would spend a few minutes with the Lord in the mornings, at least 4 times a week. I needed to be better about it, and I'm working on that. But there was times I didn't have time, but I always had time as I'm doing things before I even enter the room to say a little prayer for Daddy. And I got him I got a baby monitor. See, it's up there, right there. I'm in the room that he was in. I got him a baby monitor, so I could, even when I'm not in the room, I can see him. Anyway, the last 24 hours I was doing the diaper change, I heard the death rattle. And it's exactly how I thought it would be, the death rattle. I looked at Daddy. I kept telling him, Daddy, whenever you're ready, you can go home now. You can walk with Jesus. You can go home with Jesus. You can go see Mom and Glenn again. My brother. I said, you can go there with them. I said, your mom and dad's probably up there. You know, you have some siblings, I'm sure, that's up there. It's like, it's time for you to go home. You won the race. You crossed you're right at the finish line. Your work on earth is done. Go home. I sat with him a little bit. I gave him a kiss on his forehead and went to bed. The next day, I got up and we started the day. It's going to change his depends, but it was completely still dry, and not surprising. When someone doesn't eat or drink and they're dying, you know, all that starts to shut down. The nurse came in and said, this was Wednesday, the 30th. The nurse came in and says, he might have hours. Maybe if you're lucky, 24 to 48 hours, if you're lucky. That's all I had to say. I didn't go to work that day. I called my boss, texted my boss rather, so I can't come in. Don't lie. I even canceled. Me and my son had a doctor's appointment that day, and I'm having back problems. That's another story, and I really need to go to the doctor. But I was like, no, I'll reschedule that later. It's like I need to go. I need to stay here. That's what I said. I need to stay home. I need to stay here. So I just did just that. I stayed here with him all day, and every 30 minutes, I'd come in here for a few minutes, just about all day long, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. I would be texting my nieces and stuff, saying because when you looked at him, he was looking up, and you would do this here in front of him, his eyes wouldn't move, his mouth was open, and you guys swore like is he dead? No, his chest is still rising or falling. But he was like, he was there, but he really wasn't there the whole day. Like, previous days, he would have a lot of moments like that, but he would have a few moments, 30 minutes out of the day, an hour out of the day, where he was a little bit lucid, and you could look in his eyes and you could tell that he was listening. And then there was times when it looked like he was crying. And there was times that it looked like he was looking off in the distance, and he was smiling like a big old smile, like a kid in a candy store. Is the only way I could think to describe it. And I said, Dad, do you see the angels? And I said, if they're here to take you on, you can go home. It's not that I wanted my dad to die. I just didn't want him to suffer anymore. He was in so much pain. And I didn't want him to suffer anymore. It's been really hard. His funeral's Monday evening. And this blanket here, I come sit in his room sometimes the last day or two, well, since he's been gone 2 days now, and just hold this blanket. Yesterday I just cried and cried. Today's the first day I can actually talk about this stuff without like really like losing it. But I know when I go to the funeral it's going to be really hard, because it'll be the last day I get to see him and see his body. Let's just put it that way. I know it's not him, and I know he's going to have a glorified body, you know, and all that, but it's still my daddy, and I've always been a daddy's girl. And I got really, really close this last month, and I don't know what I'm going to do now. Kind of feel lost just a little bit, but I'm carrying on. I've been going to church again since before he got real bad, since like March. And there's so much more I want to talk about. So much more I want to say, and I just don't know how or what to say exactly. I get to do his eulogy on Monday. I'll post that later. I'll try to get my son to hold my phone to record it. But yeah, I love my dad and I miss him so much. One more thing before I end this. A few hours. My dad passed away at 10:43 p.m. on Wednesday. Around 3 p.m. I started smelling flowers in his room, and I thought that was odd. I don't have any kind of scent thing that smells like flowers, like roses, specifically roses. I have an aromatherapy thing, but there's no rose oil in it or anything like that. There's nothing in this room that smells like roses. And I never smelled that before in here except for that day. Haven't smelled it since then either. So a few hours before he died, I smelled roses, and I didn't know the significance of roses, smelling roses. I told my husband about it. He kind of clued me in that it was very significant, and I googled it, and I do see that there is different stories about why people smell roses when someone's about to die. Anyway, I smelled roses, so that was really interesting. And then after he passed, I was sitting here in this very chair, actually, and his bed, the hospital bed, was out in front of me, and he was on it, and we were waiting for the funeral home people to come pick him up, but they had another person that had passed away out in Walterboro, which is like a long ways away from here, considering on a rainy night, you know. So it was going to be a minute. So I was sitting in here with him, and I was like about to break down, crying for my daddy. And this sense of calm came over me, peace. And I was crying, and I realized I was smelling roses again. Haven't smelled it since. but I did smell it twice the same day. Once a few hours before he passed, and again a few hours before he passed, and I kept smelling it until after he'd passed, and then he passed, and then I had left the room for a while to go call the hospice people. And when I came back, when the nurse was here too, and the nurse left after she said, yeah, he's, obviously passed on, and she took his meds, his comfort meds and all that with her, and then she left, and then the chaplain and the funeral people came. But anyway, before they got here, but after the nurse left, it was just me and my son sitting in here, and I was about to cry, and then all of a sudden this warmth just filled my body, and this peace came over me, and I was smelling roses again. So, I don't know. But I do know one thing. One thing I do know for sure is that my daddy is in heaven right now. And anybody who knows that man knows that that man is in heaven. Because he was loved by everybody. And everybody knows that. And I made a solemn vow. I said, Daddy, I said, you raised me the best you could. I apologize for being not the best daughter throughout my life. But I'll make making you a vow right now that I will join you in heaven. I will meet you in the sky one day. And I'll be there with you. If I don't do anything else, I will do that. I will make sure I make it to heaven. So that's just, I just wanted to add that little bit on about the roses. I'll post more another time. Thank you.